What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Criterion Corner. This is the segment on my channel where I choose a film from the Criterion collection or that's streaming on the Criterion channel streaming service and talk about it with you in great detail. And the movie I'm going to be discussing with you today is one that I have been recommended hundreds of times. I heard about this in film school. I've heard about it talked a lot in as one of the greatest films ever made, and I've never sat down and watched it before. It's one of those things where people are always surprised when you've seen or haven't seen certain movies as a self-proclaimed cinephile, but it's sort of wild with how many incredible movies there are in the existence of cinema, how difficult it is to get to each and every one of those quickly. So I've been in this mood lately. If you've noticed, I've done a lot of Criterion Corner videos. I've watched a lot of films in the Criterion collection that are considered classics that I just feel like I hadn't gotten around to watching. And this one in particular, I was very excited to see because of all the praise surrounding it. And the film I'm going to be discussing with you today is Haine. Haine is directed by Mathieu Kassovitz. After a chaotic night of rioting in a marginal suburb of Paris, three young friends, Vince, Hubert, and Saïd, wander around unoccupied, waiting for news about the state of health of a mutual friend who had been seriously injured when confronting the police. So, I was really excited to watch this movie. Like I said, I have heard tons about this over the past several years, especially when I was in film school. This is talked about in very high regard. And so I was really looking forward to watching it. And what I will say is this movie is masterfully made. It's beautifully shot. And I think it is a very incredible watch. It's definitely uncomfortable and unsettling. There's some really hard-hitting, gut-wrenching material here, especially when it comes to conversations surrounding police brutality and racism. I think this movie is as pertinent as ever when looking at those themes, also looking at the lens of more impoverished communities and how they're treated by the police, and then racial discrimination and against certain groups. There's just so much great material here with a lot of fantastic performances. And while not everything about this film and its presentation worked for me perfectly, I still think the movie is regarded as highly as it is for a reason. And it's definitely a movie that if you are a self-proclaimed cinephile, that you should see at least once. And I'm going to talk to you about it a little bit today. So in the movie, we are introduced to three friends. We're introduced to Vince, played by Vincent Cassel, Hubert, played by Hubert Koundé, and Saïd, played by Saïd Taghmaoui. And the three of them are very close friends. They spend a lot of time together. They all live in lower income projects in this specific area. And their friend Abdel has been harassed and hurt by the police and put in a hospital where he's being put under police watch after there was a series of riots and confrontation with the police force in this particular area. And the beginning of the film is really just us getting to know these three guys and their very distinct and different backgrounds. While they all share the same community, they all have different ethnic backgrounds, they all come from different family types, they all have different aspirations in their life, and we're learning different bits and pieces of information about them. And they all want to see their friend at the hospital, but they are constantly berated by police. And the entirety of the film is them feeling very strongly about the way that their friend was treated and a lot of the situations that come about regarding the riots with the police in this particular area. So, like I said, I thought this movie was absolutely incredible, and there are a multitude of reasons for that. For starters, the performances in this movie, especially from our three lead actors, are really fantastic. Obviously, Vincent Cassel is very well known. He's been in a ton of movies. He's a very talented actor, but I think the other two actors in this movie are just as strong as his performance. They feel like people who have known each other for a very long time. The friendship feels incredibly realistic. A lot of their banter back and forth, it's just very natural, which makes the movie really easy to watch because even though this has very hard-hitting and unsettling subject matter at times, there are more light-hearted, fun moments between the characters, and I think that's so incredibly important for the director to kind of establish this semblance of normalcy in day-to-day real life that just so happens to have these issues because of police overreaching or overusing their position of power to harass these marginalized groups in these lower income areas. And I think all of their performances are really exceptional, especially in the third act when things start ramping up really intensely. They all have to give really hard hitting and profound performances, and that was really one of my favorite parts of the movie. And then my second favorite part of the film is this is visually remarkable. The cinematography in this, there are some scenes that my jaw was just on the floor with how amazing not just the shot selection was, but like the editing decisions. There's so many unique, really sort of unusual editing methods here, that really just immerse you into this world in a way that I think is really easy for its like hour and a half, hour and 40-minute runtime to just stay along for the ride because of how visually captivating it is. The director chose to shoot this in black and white, and I think there's something that works really well about that in this particular movie. I think when you look at subject matter like racism or police brutality, or positions of power kind of overreaching and abusing their positions of power, these are concepts that have been around for ages and ages, like the concept of racism, and then like political overreach or police overreach, all of these different things. These are tales as old as time. And I think that like capturing it in black and white gives it this classic feeling that makes the material in it resonate for years and years to come, because this movie came out in the 90s, and I feel like the subject that it's exploring is as poignant as ever, and a lot of that is due to the visual presentation. And I think choosing black and white, while a lot of directors now do it as like an aesthetic choice, I think it really works for the presentation of this film in particular. And there's also a lot of great musical choices in this as well. I really enjoyed the music. There's one scene in particular where there's a guy like DJing at his window, and it's a really cool scene. Not just like the musical choice that's picked, but also like the way they cut into his room and then out of his room. Really just kind of giving more personality to this community and the people who live within the community. And like I said, I think what makes this film work so well is the subject matter that it touches on, because you have three characters that have all very different backgrounds, and so their experience to like racism and brutality from the police, they're all similar but also different. And so I thought that it was really interesting. There was also like racial slurs thrown around throughout the group, which just kind of showcase like what this community is like in the ways that people are raised, access to education, all of these different things. I feel like through the performances, you really get this like overwhelming essence of like how communities like this worldwide, not just in this particular location, are viewed because of the access they have to education or jobs that pay well enough for them to, function in a day-to-day society. And I think that's what this movie is commentating on more than anything, is like these are people who are born into an area or into a group that have limited access to resources and the abilities that other people have. And so because of that, like the way you have to live your life and the decisions that you choose to do to make money or to like continue to survive aren't necessarily the same as someone who's born into something else. But the police don't care about that. And as soon as you're born into a lower income or a marginalized group, these police have a certain idea of who you are because of stereotypes and racism that exists. And I think this movie does a really great job capturing those ideas of getting like pockets of these people and their lives where they're just trying to like live and make it day to day, but because of these things, like people's lives are taken and things are made significantly harder. And especially when you look at their friend and his background and the violence that he experienced, I just thought that all of it was handled very, very well. And the third act of the movie is very intense. The final scene of this film, like my jaw was on the floor. I was not expecting it whatsoever. And I think the poignant commentary that arises from just that one scene in particular is something that is still so incredibly true to this day. And it's something that I will not stop thinking about for quite some time, because I think it is that relevant. And as I said at the beginning of the video, not everything about this works perfectly for me. I think some of the pacing of the movie, a lot of people comment and say this movie is like a masterclass in building tension and uncertainty from scene to scene. And while I think that remains true for about 3/4 of the movie, there are moments where I don't feel like that's as true, and that I had a harder time investing myself in certain moments throughout the movie. But I don't think that takes away from just how powerful and incredible of a message that this film is, and just how masterfully made that it is. And I think that if you're interested in film at all, this is a movie that really showcases like the power of not just like poignant subject matter, but like getting great performances from your actors and utilizing really incredible cinematography to help your message get across. And I definitely think this movie is worth checking out. So have you seen Haine? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was incredible. It definitely has its classic status for a reason. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.